Good evening and welcome to the College of Arts and Sciences online information session for Math and the Natural Sciences. Joining us tonight are Professor Chris Butler, who will be addressing questions regarding mathematics and statistics, Professor Gary Chottiner, who will be taking questions on astronomy and physics, and Professor Michael Kenney, who will be addressing questions about chemistry, geology, and environmental geology. I am Lynn Marie Hamill from the Office of Undergraduate Studies, and I'll be taking your questions via email to be answered live on air. If you have a question, please send it to summerreghelp@case.edu with the subject line Info Session. If we do not answer your question live on air, we will follow up with you via email shortly. And now to your hosts, Professors Butler, Chottiner, and Kenney.
Hello, and welcome to the webinar on mathematics and natural sciences. My name is Chris Butler, and I'm going to talk about mathematics, and I'm also able to answer questions about statistics. So, the mathematics department at Case Western Reserve University, we have 5 different programs that you can get. We have a BA with a major in mathematics. That gives you basically the most flexibility. We also have a BA with teacher certification. We have a BS with a major or a degree in mathematics, a BS in applied mathematics, and with the physics department, we have a BS in mathematics and physics. So I want to talk a little bit about how you go about setting up your first semester schedule. So one of the main things that you want to use is the first year information guide. That has most of the information that you'll need to develop your schedule. You want to plan to have somewhere between 14 and 17 hours, which is 4 or 5 courses. Now, what should you consider? Well, the most important thing to think about are your general education requirements. You're going to need to make sure that you satisfy all of the arts and sciences core, which means your SAGES courses, your arts and humanities, your natural and mathematical sciences, which you really don't have to worry about too much if you're majoring in one of these disciplines. That sort of takes care of itself. The social sciences, obviously the quantitative reasoning, which also takes care of itself. The global and cultural diversity, and your physical education requirements. So, how do we go about making a first semester schedule? Well, first seminar, that's obvious. Next, your math class. Well, you would start off by taking Math 121, unless you have AP credit for Math 121, and then you'd move along depending on how much advanced placement credit you have. The next class to consider is Engineering 131. It's required for all of the different degrees that we offer. Next class to consider is Physics 121. That would be if you're taking a BS in mathematics, or the BS in applied mathematics, or the BS in mathematics and physics. And the last class would be the science class. If you're doing a BS, then you need to take a science class. Most students in mathematics either take chemistry, geology, astronomy, something like that. And then the last thing to consider is a phys ed class. One thing to think about when you're looking at those classes is you want to keep 4 to 5 courses. So your first seminar is going to be 4 credits. Math 121 is 4 credits. Physics is 4 credits. And if you take a 4-credit foreign language, you're already at 16 credits. That's enough. You want to make sure that you don't overdo yourself in your first semester. Also, you want to make sure that you sign up for phys ed, because you don't want to wait until your senior year and then have to take a whole bunch of phys ed just to be able to graduate. So, some of the opportunities within the mathematics department, and probably for chemistry and physics and the other departments in the natural sciences, are research. Most of our undergraduates do research. All the students here need to do a senior capstone. In the mathematics department, we have what are called SI leaders. We hire students to work with the first semester calculus classes, so that's another opportunity. We have junior year abroad, so you can spend your junior year somewhere else. We have co-op and internships. We also have a math club and what's called Pi Mu Epsilon, which is the National Math Honor Society. And the math department also competes in different mathematics competitions. We have a Northeastern Ohio Mathematics Association of America competition that CASE has won the last 5 or 6 years. Here's some of the other courses that once you get through sort of the base courses that you can think about. There are quite a few there. We end up teaching somewhere between 50 and 60 classes a semester. So we have a wide variety of things to think about and a lot of different opportunities. If you need more information, one of the best places to look is at our website. Also, if you need to contact me, I probably have the easiest email address of anybody at the university. It's just chris@case.edu, or I have my own toll-free number, 1-800-659-MATH. So now I'm going to turn it over to Gary, and maybe he can talk a little bit about physics.
Okay, I'm Gary Chottiner. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Physics. I'm also the Director of Undergraduate Studies for our department, and I'm going to guide you through our academic programs by leading you through our website. Okay, and I first of all want to show you how to get to our website. If you are starting from the university homepage, you would go to Schools and College and choose College of Arts and Sciences. Then you would go to Departments and Centers, and then Department of Physics or Mathematics or Chemistry or any of the other departments. If you choose Physics, you'll be able to learn more about our faculty, about our research opportunities, etc. But for today's purposes, I want to concentrate on our academic programs, specifically our undergraduate programs. So this is a webpage that I personally maintain to provide information to undergraduates and other people interested in what you can do with physics. So let's start with the degree programs we offer. And on this webpage, you'll actually see 7 different degree programs listed. You also see a little link here to advice for physics majors. This is all the advice, general purpose advice that our students like to know. Advice about specific degree programs. You'll see here, what if you're interested in the Bachelor of Arts, or if the engineering physics program, etc., math and physics, that I'll talk more about in a moment. That won't be of much concern to you yet, I think. What will be of more concern is which of the degree programs you might be interested in, what courses should you pick in order to pursue that degree program. So for example, if you click on the Bachelor of Science in Physics, you'll see an explanation of the purpose of that degree program, which is basically to produce professional physicists who may or may not go on to graduate school in physics. You'll see a list of all the required courses for this degree program, but probably most useful for you is the sample schedule or a typical schedule for first-year students. So you'll see here under first year in the fall that if you intend to be a physics major, most likely you'll take Physics 121 or 123, an enhanced version of the course that I'll say more about in a moment. You'll take Math 121, unless you have AP credit, etc. You'll take Chemistry, one of 2 versions of Chemistry. I'll say more about that in a moment. There's an open elective, a 1-credit open elective that we recommend anyone interested in physics, and whether or not you intend to be a major, just if you're interested in physics, take Physics 166, and I'll say more about this in a moment too. And then the SAGES first seminar. So this would be your first semester, physics, math, chemistry, and first seminar, and possibly another 3-credit course if you wish. If you compare that to, for example, the BA program, the Bachelor of Arts program, it has a slightly different purpose. It's meant to be the most flexible degree we offer, making it easier to combine this with other interests. But you also, if you scan down to what should you take the first semester, you'll see physics, math, intro science, which is usually chemistry, and the first seminar, and the open elective. In fact, if you go through any of our degree programs, math and physics, for example, you'll see physics, math, and chemistry, and first seminar. So you don't really have to worry about which of the degree programs you want to pursue this first year even, because most of the courses you take will be the same for all of them, with one important exception. That important exception, if you look, for example, in this program, you'll see the chemistry can be Chemistry 105 or Chemistry 111. We accept that for all of our degree programs, except for the engineering physics major, which is in the physics department, but the degree is granted by the Case School of Engineering, And they require that students take Chemistry 111 and not Chemistry 105 followed by 106. So if you're at all tempted by an engineering physics major or engineering, then it would be best if you registered for Chemistry 111. And it's okay if you register for that for all of our other majors too. We accept it. So that covers, I think, the various degree programs, so I want to say about those. The next link on our page is course descriptions. This is probably the easiest way to find out what each of our courses is about, but I'm calling this up for one reason. This has an explanation about Physics 166. This course I mentioned, that's a 1-credit course. It's a 1-credit pass, no pass course. If you're at all interested in physics, then we suggest you register for this course, because if all you see is Physics 121 and 122, you might think that physicists slide blocks down inclined planes for a living. And that's just not the case. So actually, at the suggestion of our own majors, our upper class majors, we created a course that gives freshmen an idea of what they're getting into their very first year. In fact, their very first semester now, although we offer this both semesters. So you can navigate to this page and you can see the sorts of things that physicists actually do in their profession. And most of these people are faculty, but not all of them are faculty in our department. So you'll see things like climate change, fractals in the art world, and biophysics, etc., mathematical physics. So we would strongly urge you to register for that course if you can fit it into your schedule. Okay. The next item on this webpage is intro physics. And so this is if you have questions about, well, what are the different types of physics I can take? There's Physics 115, 116, but that's directed at students majoring in the life sciences. It's accepted for our BA, but anyone really interested in physics really should take Physics 121 and 122. You may receive an invitation to take an enhanced version of Physics 121. That's called Physics 123, Physics and Frontiers. And if you receive that invitation, perhaps even if you don't, you might want to navigate to this page, which describes Physics 123 in detail. It's meant to appeal to students who are interested in physics rather than students who feel they just have to take physics in order to get a degree in some other discipline. So you can see there are 4 more prerequisites for this course, SAT or ACT scores, etc. You have to have had a high school calculus course and a high school physics course. Those invitations will go out in a few weeks. If you don't receive one, but you're interested in being a physics major, note this next note, that the above prerequisites can be overridden. If the course doesn't fill up, then you can contact the instructor. There'll be a wait list of sorts, but you can contact the course instructor, Ji-Shan, and she can discuss with you whether you should be in this course or not. In any case, don't worry if you don't get into it. It turns out that only about half of all physics majors go through Physics 123. Most of the others go through Physics 121. When I was an undergraduate, I went through the equivalent of Physics 121. And a few people skip first semester physics altogether, which you can do if you have AP credit or transfer credit or via proficiency exam. And those are the next things I want to mention. Similar comments, by the way, apply to both math and chemistry. There are AP exams you can, of course, take. If you took the AP Physics B exam, that won't help you much if you're a physics major. That would get you out of the first semester of the life science version, algebra-based version. If you earned a 4 or 5 on the Physics C mechanics exam, you will be able to skip the first semester of physics and start directly in the second semester, or wait a semester and start then. If you receive an invitation to Physics 123 and decide you want to take it, you would forfeit your AP credit, although you have a couple of weeks to reconsider. You can start in the course and then reconsider it later. We tried to make Physics 123 an interesting enough option that students who are thinking of majoring in physics choose that option and do give up their AP credit, but it's not clear that's the best thing for everyone. It does mean that at some point there'll be one fewer course that you'll be able to take. We do not give credit for the Physics C E&M exam because our experience is students don't do well in E&M based only on an AP course. However, if you feel you know this material well enough and shouldn't have to take it, in all of our fields, there are proficiency exams that you can take. So we have a proficiency exam website which lays out what each of our exams covers, the dates of the exam, etc., and even sample exams. I won't click on it and call it up, but you'll be able to see what you would need to know to pass a typical physics proficiency exam. So moving back to our website, let me just very quickly call up the list of our physics majors. This is only accessible to people who are logged in through CrewNet or VPN, by the way, because it also has all their pictures, etc., and contact information. Our department's very collegial. The students basically get to know all the faculty and vice versa through the years, and this helps us learn each other's names. There's one or two particular things I want to point out on this page. One of which is, now we also have records of our alumni going back 100 years. So you can see who's graduated back to 1912, but we don't have email addresses going back that far. We also have a list of alumni destinations, and this is something that you might find interesting. Since I started collecting this data for the class of 1999, you can see all the different places our students have gone and all the different things they're doing, whether it be in industry, a graduate school in physics, or graduate school in other disciplines. So this information is all available to you. The next page I want to show you, Professor Butler already talked about doing research. That's a theme throughout the sciences. We're teaching physics majors to do physics research. That's what the discipline is really about. It's not the history of physics. And so this web page will explain a variety of mechanisms for you to get involved in physics, most of which come down to just getting up your nerve to go talk to a faculty member and asking about jobs. That's how most of these positions are filled. You can also do some homework in advance. And so, for example, on this page, you'll see senior projects. And these go back, probably 300 senior projects listed on this page. And you can call up this. You can see all the different things our majors have done over the past more than a decade and get some ideas of things that you could do. You can even call up posters they've presented and papers they've written, etc. And you should realize that many of these students didn't start out on these projects as seniors. They started out as juniors, sophomores, sometimes even freshmen, okay? But this will give you some idea of the scope of activities that are available to you doing research in physics. Two last things actually. There's also what I call the undergraduate newsletter, which is how we try to get information out to students. Instead of sending out dozens of emails each week, we just put postings in this newsletter. So if you have a chance, you might want to skim through this and see all the things going on in the department. One thing I do want to point out to you is the jobs section, which includes how to get jobs in the department, research jobs, summer jobs, etc. But I just checked out this week, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics posted a new table on the highest paying professions. The reason I'm showing you this is that sometimes people don't understand what sorts of jobs you can get if your title is, well, if your degree says physics or mathematics or maybe even chemistry. And these degrees open a wide variety of fields to you. And I thought it was interesting that physicists out of 800 possible professions are 19th highest paid. And if you go into science management, you become, I think it was 11th or something highest paid. And 7 of the higher positions are in medicine. There are also statistics like in each state, who has hired a BS physics major in the past 3 or 4 years. So you can click on a state, wherever you'd like to live, like California, and you can see all the different jobs that are available to somebody whose degree says physics. Okay? So this is something else that you may want to investigate. Finally, let me point out another terrific mechanism for learning about the department, and that's to get involved in the Physics and Astronomy Club. They have at least once a month a talk by a faculty member in the department. You'll get to know other majors, and those other majors will know many of the faculty, etc. So if you get involved in the Physics Astronomy Club, which you can certainly do as a freshman, you'll learn a lot more about the department very quickly. So that's all I want to say up front, at least, about the physics programs. I'll turn the computer over to Mike.
All right, let me grab that from you. Excuse me. And I'll do this. I'm going to talk with you about chemistry. Unlike physics and math, we only have 2 options in the chemistry department currently. You can do a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry or a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. And the fundamental difference between those 2 are really the number of credits in chemistry. The BA degree in chemistry is about 32 credits of chemistry-related courses and another 16 credits in math and physics and other areas. It provides you a lot of flexibility. It allows you to double major, which is all too popular here at Case Western Reserve University. But it also gives you a chance to explore some other things. The Bachelor of Science in Chemistry is more intensive. There's about 54 credits of chemistry required, an additional 31 credit hours of math, physics, and other technical courses. The technical courses are other courses in the physical sciences. So they can be in engineering, they can be other courses in math, physics, A lot of students will pick up a computer programming class or something like that. This degree is certified by the American Chemical Society. It allows you, it prepares you very well for graduate school. Quite often what I personally advise students is to do the BA degree, but supplement it with some other courses. The Bachelor of Arts degree will prepare you very well for graduate school or other schooling. Many pre-med students are going to pursue the chemistry degree because it fits their schedule well, and the pre-med curriculum encourages that you take 2 years of chemistry. For your first semester here at Case Western Reserve, the schedule's pretty simple, and it matches pretty nicely what math and physics have already told you. You're going to take your SAGE's first seminar class. You would take a math class. If you know that you're a Bachelor of Arts major for certain, Math 125 is fine, but we usually encourage you to consider Math 121 if you're even thinking about a Bachelor of Science degree, because you will need that one eventually. It's hard to transfer between the two, but it's not impossible. You will take Chem 105. We'll talk about AP credit in a second, and Chem 113 lab. And then you have room for an Arts and Humanities elective after that. You can start your physics if you want, or you can choose to take a psychology class or a sociology class, a fine arts, or a language class, for example. I always encourage you to take a PE class. As Professor Butler said earlier, when Chris has seen lots of seniors who say, oh geez, I need 2 semesters of PE just to graduate. It happens every year. Don't postpone your PE, you need that. Your second semester is a continuation of most of those. The one thing that's somewhat question mark in here is the Chem 113 lab. And the reason why it becomes a question mark is because there is only 1 semester of lab required your first year. You can take it in either the fall or the spring. And many first-year students who are taking the schedule are also taking a biology class. So their first semester biology class in the fall also has a lab. So a lot of students are going to ask themselves the question, do I need to have 2 laboratory classes in that first year, or should I wait and postpone it till the spring? I would tell you that if you feel comfortable in lab, you should definitely put 2 laboratory courses in the fall. The laboratory courses meet once a week. They're not going to be as stressful, although they are still work, as some of your other courses. So I would encourage you to front load the labs. As a science major here at Case Western Reserve, the chances of you having 2 labs in any one semester are very high. So you can postpone it till the spring if you'd like, but I don't necessarily encourage it. I'm going to jump here. Here's the AP. If you have AP scores of a 4 or a 5, or IP chemistry HL scores of 6, 5, or 7, I like my ordering there. It's my math skills, right, Chris? You can choose to take AP credit for chemistry. You can get credit for Chem 105, Chem 106, and Chem 113, which is rather enticing. That's 8 credits before you walk in the door. Should you do that or not? My recommendation is quite often, and in fact always, to not start organic chemistry your first semester in college. Organic chemistry is a very difficult course for every student, and while you are very good in the science, as proven by your test score, when you get into that organic chemistry class, you're going to find out that it is very challenging. And because the lab is so popular, it's a hard class to get the lab for as well. Taking the lab with the lecture helps you tremendously. So, if you've taken chemistry very recently, and you did very well, and you come from a strong background, definitely take advantage of that AP credit. You have the option of waiving the AP credit and retaking Chem 105, or Chem 106, or Chem 113. I've had students who have taken 105 and then not taken Chem 113, or excuse me, 106, because they felt that they had enough introductory chemistry they could go straight to organic. That works. You could go straight to 106, and in the past you always had to wait till the spring to make that happen. This year, for the first time, we're going to offer Chem 106 in the fall. So if you think that you did quite well in your AP and you're ready to get started on your chemistry, you can, this fall, take Chem 106. And I'm going to strongly encourage those of you with APs who think you're ready for organic chemistry to consider that option strongly. If you have questions, I'll definitely be available. You can ask me at some point. What that means then is, what do you do in the spring? And so we're going to start teaching organic chemistry, again for the first time, in the spring semester. So those of you with high AP scores are able to start our chemistry course in the fall, general chemistry, to get back into the swing of it. and then start your organic chemistry in the spring, and then we'll have the second semester organic chemistry the spring after that. So you'll be right on track. Actually, you'll be a little bit ahead of the game if that's what interests you. The other question that gets asked a lot is we have two flavors of organic chemistry, Chem 223 and Chem 323. Chem 323 is only offered in the fall and the spring. That's the only sequence we have. I tend to advise those students who've had a full year of introductory chemistry here at Case and are considering a medical school track to seriously consider Chem 323. The BS Chem majors are required to take Chem 323. The BA majors have the option to take it. If you're going to med school, the reason I say this is because the focus of the chemistry in Chem 323 is we're teaching the discipline a little bit differently, and we're focusing on the chemistry of the molecules of life. Is it required for pre-med? No. Is it a harder class? Depends on the student. Is it a better teacher? That's always going to be a question that you're going to have to talk to other students about. There's lots of reasons why you'd pick one over the other. Either one will meet your needs for a chemistry major, BA, BS, or if you're going to medical school, or for any other majors on campus. With that, I'm going to open it up and see if there are any questions. I think Dean Hamill is out there.
All right. Thank you very much, you guys. I just want to remind everyone watching that if you do have a question, you can send it to summerreghelp@case.edu. We have gotten some in already, so we're going to start with questions. We have one from Daniel, and Professor Butler and Chottiner might want to chime in on these. It's a two-part question. The first one is, what math course would you recommend for someone with a 5 on the AP Calculus BC test? And then the second part of the question for Professor Chottiner, if I pass both the mechanics and E&M physics AP tests, what class should I take? And does the E&M test exempt me from Physics 122?
Well, I'll take care of the math question first. That if you got a 4 or 5 on the BC Calculus exam, then you should sign up for Math 223. And if you're invited, you should consider taking 227. But my advice, sort of like Professor Kenney, Math 227 is hard. So if you're going to be a math major or a physics major, it's probably the right course for you. It's an honors class. It covers more of the theory and less of the applications of mathematics. So it's good for math majors, good for physics majors. It's not as appropriate for engineering students. So Math 223 or Math 227. Professor Chottiner?
The answer to the AP physics question, it depends somewhat on what your interests are. First of all, I want to remind you that we don't give AP credit for E&M, only for the mechanics part of the exam. So if you want to basically get out of E&M, then you would have to do that by passing a proficiency exam, which you can do, I think it's the Thursday before classes start, but it's a few days before classes start in the fall. If you pass that exam, then you would be exempt from Physics 122. You would basically get course credit for it, not a grade, but course credit. If you are interested in physics, and you've done this well on the AP tests, you may receive an invitation to enroll in Physics 123, and then you'd have to consider carefully whether you would like to take that course or just get on and take more advanced physics courses sooner.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Elizabeth, who would like to know, if I would like to double major in astronomy and engineering physics, is this a feasible goal? And would I have to fulfill both the arts and science and engineering core?
Well, yes, you would have to fulfill the core for both of those degrees, so that does make it difficult to do that. It's a reasonable thing to start out down that path. I didn't say much about astronomy, although I'm prepared to answer questions about that. And one reason I didn't say much about it is basically the same as the physics degree for the first year, except astronomy doesn't require chemistry the first year. And astronomy has a 1-credit course similar to our Physics 166 that they offer in the second semester. So that if you're interested in combining those two things, then the first year would probably be devoted towards doing the engineering or the engineering physics courses, because that would prepare you for astronomy. And then you might see how your interests evolve, whether you can try to combine them some way later years, possibly taking other courses over the summer. So it's certainly something, I wouldn't throw it out. I think it's something you should try to get started in and can.
Thank you. We have a question about Chem 113. Should I take Chem 113 in the fall or the spring, and will I be behind if I do have to take it in the spring semester?
You can choose to take Chem 113 either time, and taking it either time will not put you ahead or behind. Again, it comes down to your choice. If you are an athlete and you have practice in the fall, I would encourage you to wait to take Chem 113 until the spring. If you're an athlete who's going to have practice in the spring, then take Chem 113 in the fall. If you are concerned about taking two laboratories at the same time, a biology laboratory and a chemistry laboratory, take Chem 113 in the spring. You'll still have two laboratories in the spring, but at least you'll have one semester under your belt. Most students can handle Chem 113 with the biology lab in their first semester. But if you don't think that your lab preparation is that strong, go ahead and wait. It's not going to put you behind at all if you wait until the spring.
Thank you. Now we have a question from someone who's interested in possibly a chemistry major, but may also want to, but is considering chemical engineering. What courses should they take, and how easy is it to change from one to the other?
We get a lot of students who start in engineering and switch to chemistry or vice versa. And it is a hard switch, I'll be honest. The engineering core is slightly different than the arts and sciences core. So my recommendation for students considering chemical engineering is to start on the engineering track. Start with Chem 111, start with Physics 121 and Math 121. All three of those courses are required in the chemistry major as well, but Chem 111 is the requirement for the engineers. If in that first semester you decide, you know what, Chem 111 is not the right class, or engineering is not the right track for me, I want to switch to the College of Arts and Sciences, you can switch at that time, and that's something we can talk about during that semester. So I would recommend, if you're thinking about engineering, start down the engineering core.
Great. So we have a student who would want to know the difference between Chem 105 and Chem 111. Is one more difficult than the other? And which one would be better for a physics major on the pre-med track?
If you're a physics major on the pre-med track, I strongly encourage you to do Chem 105 and Chem 106. You could do Chem 111 and followed by Engineering 145. Those two courses are the equivalent of a year of introductory chemistry in the College of Arts and Sciences. However, a medical school is going to look at your transcript and it's going to say Introduction to Chemistry for Engineers, which is the title for Chem 111, and the Chemistry of Materials, which is the title for Engineering 145. And while they both have chemistry in their title, let's make it obvious. You took General Chemistry 1 and General Chemistry 2, or Introduction to Chemistry 1 and Introduction to Chemistry 2. It'll make it easier if you start the pre-med track. If you're definitely pre-med, I encourage 105 and 106.
Another one. Okay, we have students who are emailing in about their AP credits. They have varying credits for sociology and econ, history, and things along those lines. And they want to know how those may play or fit into their degree requirements.
I guess the easiest way to handle that is that if you look at the FYI guide on page 56, that covers all the different AP scores and the courses that you would get credit for. I would then look at the general education requirements and see which ones those took care of for you. After you did that, that just allows you to move on and take other courses, or gives you more freedom to take other things. And it gives you, some choices.
Okay, Haley has written in, and this is, I think it would be for Professor Chottiner. She's read that it's recommended that all students who are considering majoring in physics should take a case mechanics course. So for those of us who will receive credit for the AP Physics C exam, would it be better to take the Physics 121 mechanics course rather than skipping right to Physics 122?
I'm not sure where that's written, because I think that's actually a fairly personal decision. Depending upon, again, your ACT or SAT scores, you might receive the invitation to take Physics 123. And as distinct from Physics 121, which fulfills the requirements for students in other disciplines to take physics, Physics 123 is meant to teach you physics the way a physicist thinks about it. So that would be an attractive option if you have the AP credit for that. Otherwise, you have to think about whether you'd rather get on and just use your AP credit and take Physics 122. Because remember, anytime you basically repeat a course, there is going to be some other course that you won't be able to take down the line. And I don't think it's a problem to start off in Physics 122 your first semester. Occasionally we have students who get credit for AP credit for Physics 121, pass a proficiency exam for Physics 122, and then want to move on to what's normally a sophomore level course, Physics 221. That's a little more risky. But you have to decide as a personal thing whether you feel like you understand mechanics so well you're willing to start in Physics 122. Something else I should mention that's true for all these options, you have 2 weeks into the semester, it's called a drop add period, to sit in on a course and decide whether it's too hard or too easy. So something we often recommend is, well, if you are unsure about Physics 121 or 122, go sit in on the course and then make your decision. You can do that.
I would add to that if you're thinking about whether or not you want to use your AP credit, I would try the upper level course first, because I think that it's much easier to move backwards than to move forwards. So that if you're sitting in the, as I say, Physics 122, and you find that that course is too difficult for you, I find that it would be much easier for you to move back to Physics 121 than vice versa. If you started out in Physics 121 and find out that you're bored there, and then try to move into Physics 122 after the first week or so when they've already done some things.
Great. Now I have a question. It's directed to chemistry, but maybe all of you may chime in with your departments. But students want to know, what would chemistry majors do when they graduate, and what kind of range of chemistry opportunities are within the department now?
I get asked that question a lot for obvious reasons. My standard answer is you can do anything you want with a chemistry degree. If I pick on my own career, while I have a PhD in physical chemistry, I've been a director of marketing and a director of education and a director of business development in the for-profit world. And my father used to always ask me, what the heck does a PhD in chemistry teach you about marketing? Here at Case and at most of the universities that students are looking at these days, we're not here to prepare you for a career. We're here to prepare you to collect data, analyze that data, draw reasonable conclusions. I happen to use chemistry for my examples because it's the discipline that I love and that I've been involved in for many years. To specifically answer your question, chemists can go on and work in the pharmaceutical industry. They can work in technical sales. They can be designing new drugs. They can be designing new things to better living through chemistry kind of idea. There's lots of opportunities. They can go on to graduate school if they so choose. You can get a job with a 4-year degree in chemistry, and you may not be working in the chemical industry at all. So you can do lots of different things, but if you're thinking you're going to be a bench chemist walking into the lab every day, there's fewer and fewer of those jobs. And so you will be learning to apply what you learn to other problems.
I can possibly add some context to that. And I already showed you some, at least I showed you how to find out where some of our majors have gone after they got their degrees. But I want to point out that all of our departments are in the College of Arts and Sciences. And that means something about what we are trying to do. If you were in the School of Engineering, that's called a professional degree. And so the School of Engineering is really required to teach people how to do that specific job. We have a broader interest in teaching students how to think. And I think we're thrilled when some of them decide to go on and become professional chemists or physicists or mathematicians, but we're just as thrilled if they decide to go out and become politicians or work in the field of communications. I've actually had calls from banks in Cleveland. We've had people come back from Wall Street trying to hire physicists, and we're glad that the wide spectrum of jobs that our majors are able to achieve.
And certainly with mathematics, since it's sort of the base of everything, that if you get a mathematics degree, it says something about you. It says that you know how to think logically, and you know how to solve problems. And with those skills, you can go out and do almost anything you want to do. So I always think that if you have a choice, then mathematics is the right choice.
At least mathematics and physics.
Or chemistry.
That's quite the range of jobs you get going there. That's very impressive. We have another question from Megan, who wants to know, if you go straight to organic chemistry, what lab should you take, and are there any labs you can test out of?
Megan, if you're going to go straight to organic chemistry, you would definitely go to the organic chemistry lab. And assuming that it is still open, realizing that all of our current second-year students have already registered, you could go into that lab. So the only lab that we allow you to test out of is Chem 113. That's with your AP score. None of the other labs allow you to test out of them. And quite honestly, our experience has been that many of the students who skip Chem 113 get to organic, and the skills that we assume that you have were not necessarily driven home as strongly as we would like. And so we're going to be pushing you pretty hard in that organic lab. So if you go straight to organic, you want to take the organic lab, which is Chem 233.
Great. I have a question from Alex, who's interested in pursuing a double major in music performance and physics/math. Is that possible while still getting a BS in physics and math, or should I stick with a BA?
I would think that it's certainly possible. We have quite a few students that do the BS in math and a and a degree in music. Actually, we just had one of our graduate students leave the math program, and now he's over at CIM doing a performance degree. So there are lots of options, and we have quite a few students that do that. And I'm sure Gary also has.
We typically have 1 or 2 students a year who combine mathematics, or physics, I should say, and music. I should also want to remind you that we have this mathematics and physics degree, which is jointly run by both departments. That's not a double degree or 2 degrees, etc. That's a single degree that has a number of credits required, similar to either a mathematics or physics degree. So if you're interested in both disciplines, that's probably the one to start off with, and then add in the music. It's certainly not easy to do. You'll get special attention the first semester from the music department as they try to add in all the courses you need for the music degree. But it happens. It happens every year. So it's certainly something you can try to do.
Great. Now this is probably for Professor Chottiner as well. For a physics major, can you take Physics 124 without taking Physics 123?
Well, first of all, Physics 124 is only offered in the spring semester. You can petition the instructor for Physics 124 to let you in. It's a permit-only course. And the instructor, depending upon your background and what you tell him or her, I think might look favorably on such a request, especially if you intend to be a physics major. If you go through Physics 123 and get a reasonable grade, then it's automatic that you get a permit. So the automatic step isn't there, but and you have to decide whether you'd like to just start in Physics 122 in the fall, because you can't do Physics 124 in the fall. But it's possible to not take physics for a semester, then do Physics 124 in the spring.
Great. Megan has a question for Professor Kenney. As a chemistry major, what classes besides science and math classes do I have to take, or where can I find them?
What classes do you have to take besides science and math? The only classes you have to take besides science and math, Chris has a nice list for me here, are the general education requirements for any degree within the College of Arts and Sciences. So that includes your SAGES courses. You have a first seminar, 2 university seminars, a departmental seminar, and a SAGES capstone course that are required. You have a fine arts requirement, a humanities requirement, a social science requirement. They're all listed on page 103, thanks Chris, of the FYI guide. And so I encourage you to look there. The other thing though in chemistry is, you had the question about music earlier. We have a lot of chemistry majors who double up with a music degree and a chemistry degree, or a language degree and a chemistry degree. With the BA, there's lots of opportunity to do that, and I'd encourage you to look into those.
Great. That kind of leads into what our next question is with the BA. So we have some students asking, you guys went through what the number of requirements are, the number of hours for BA versus a BS, and the BA had a lot fewer. So if you take those classes plus your general education classes, that doesn't add up to 120. What other type of courses should they be taking or looking at?
I can go ahead and get started. At least for the physics BA, we regard that as our the degree that you can most easily do what other things that you'd like to do. You could, if you like, take more physics, a lot more physics with that. And if you think you might go off to graduate school in physics, you probably should. But the BA makes it easier, for example, to combine interest in physics and music, or physics and history, or physics and anything else you want to do. So generally, if you're pursuing the BA, you have other interests, and you would fill up your schedule with courses that reflect those other interests.
You'd also be allowed to take, within the mathematics degree, if you wanted to do the BA in mathematics, then you could do other things in management, economics. If you were planning on going to law school, that might be a good thing to do. If you wanted to do graduate work in something else, you can fulfill quite a few different options if you have the BA degree. We had a student once that got a BA in math, a BA in economics, and a BA in English, and ended up going to law school and is a quite successful lawyer now. So there are lots of options there.
If I can add one more thing there, as I said earlier, the BA degree, it does provide you more flexibility. And often I'm going to encourage my students to do the BA degree, add some chemistry courses in it if they want to go on to graduate school. Personally, I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in chemistry, and the reason I chose the Bachelor of Arts was because I also have a Bachelor of Arts in Spanish. And so it was important for me to have the time to be able to do that. The BA degree in any of our areas allows you more flexibility to try other classes, to do things you want to do, because you're never going to get another chance to do them.
And I'd like to add one more thought to that. On campus, a lot of students feel that a BS degree is somehow better than a BA degree, and we try to dissuade that sort of thinking. In fact, perhaps a third of our faculty have BA degrees, and some very prestigious institutions, think Ivy League, only provide BA degrees with a very small list of course requirements. So there's nothing wrong at all with pursuing a BA degree and then also taking courses that reflect your other interests.
Great. We have a question from Joe who'd like to know, is it possible to study abroad being a science major of some sort?
Yes.
Yes.
Because it happens every year.
Next question.
In fact, it's about to happen a lot more. We're in the physics department, and perhaps some other departments are involved with the Center for International Affairs with trying to find what are called well-trodden paths to make this easier. Schools at which we've prearranged what courses will transfer. But I'm actually the person in the physics department who sits down with students. We had one in Germany last year. They often travel to New Zealand or Australia or winter. That seems to be popular. But I'm the person that sits down and works through, if you go to this school, what courses will we accept for transfer back here so that you don't lose a semester or a year because you studied abroad. And there's an initiative throughout the university to make this easier and more attractive to students.
I think, in fact, the three of us are the representatives for each of our departments to sit down with students who want to travel abroad and look at what courses will transfer back. It does take some pre-planning, but a science major definitely is able to travel abroad at some point in their academic career and still complete their degree requirements on schedule.
Professor Butler, anything else to add before I have another question?
No, I think that Mike and Gary did a wonderful job there.
Okay. So we have a student who's interested in teaching high school science or math after they graduate. Are there any education courses they need to take, or do we have anything to help prepare them for teaching?
Well, certainly in the mathematics department, we have the BA with teacher certification. Now, of course, for your first semester, that's not going to change your schedule very much. But as you move through, you're going to need to make sure that you satisfy all the BA requirements for the mathematics degree, but also the teacher certification requirements, which means you need to take some other courses and some courses at John Carroll University and do your student teaching. It makes things a little bit more complicated, but it's certainly, we have 4 or 5 students that do that every year, so it's not an uncommon thing.
Let me add to that. If you can navigate to the webpage that shows the physics degree programs, you'll see one there that says BA Teaching. And if you click on that, this will show the specific education courses that you would take at CWRU and also the ones that you would take at John Carroll. There are also some special opportunities available to students who are interested in this. There are Noyce scholarships. Again, if you go to this webpage, you can find the person, Denise Davis, who helps to run a lot of these programs. And so this does happen. We typically have about one physics major every year who decides to go into K through 12 teaching.
Great. We have some questions about research. I know you guys talked a little bit about it early on, that a lot of research happens on campus, but we have a few emails asking, are there research opportunities available for first-year students? And if so, how do they go about finding them?
I'll jump in to start that one. Gary did a good job of telling you there's a page on the physics site that Gary's put together that talks about how to find research opportunities. And if I remember right, his statement was something along the lines of, you had to get enough courage to contact a faculty member. That's excellent advice. If you are interested in getting into research right away, find out what the faculty are doing. Look at their web pages, read about the research they're doing, do a little bit more homework about the research they're doing, and then make an appointment to go talk with them about their research. If you are genuinely interested in what they're doing, and after talking with them, you're really, really excited, and they can tell that, asking them if there's any opportunities in their laboratory is an easy thing to do. The hardest thing is going and knocking on their door. It shouldn't be, but for many students it is. So there are opportunities for first-year students to get into research, and it is not an uncommon thing at all. In the chemistry, we also have lots of opportunities within the medical schools. The medical college campuses around here are always looking for researchers. So there's ways to do it, but it really amounts to you doing a little bit of planning up front, investigating to what they're doing, and then talking with them about the research they're doing.
And I'd like to add a few caveats to that. Be a little bit careful about taking on too much your first year until you see how hard or easy your classes are. We typically have perhaps 2 or 3 freshmen who manage to talk themselves into research groups. Most research positions for undergraduates in our department are actually paid positions rather than something you do voluntarily, although you can also get these positions for course credit. It turns out our sophomore lab courses prepare students to be very useful in the lab, so these positions become much easier to find during your sophomore year and certainly during your junior year. About half of all physics majors end up doing research before their senior project when it's required. The other thing I want to also add is there are lots of other interesting things to do on campus. Groups you can get involved in, activities, etc. And so you don't want, well, you may or may not want to spend every waking moment in a physics class or doing physics research, etc. If that's your thing, that's fine. But there are lots of other things that we encourage students to consider doing too.
And in mathematics, it's certainly less common for freshmen to get involved in research just because of the base of information that you need to be able to do any work at all. It's a little bit different than, I would say, chemistry or physics, which have some lab components. Mathematics doesn't necessarily have a lab component. Now, certainly in some areas of applied mathematics, there's some coding and things like that that you can get involved in, but usually that requires a certain sophistication of mathematics that most freshmen don't possess. But certainly as a sophomore and junior, senior, you're going to be doing research. It's a given.
Let me add one more thing to that. It's not research exactly, but something else a lot of our students do as paying jobs is to help teach other students. Now, you won't walk in the door as a freshman and be doing that, but we have supplementary instructors, graders, and all sorts of other positions that will be available perhaps after your first semester, certainly after your first year, where you'll be helping to teach other students. And that's an important skill for someone in the science to learn.
Great. Following up on that, are there other opportunities, or are there tutors available, and who do people go to if they are having problems in their courses?
Well, I'll start with that. Within all the first-year mathematics courses, we have supplemental instructors. They work with the instructor of the course, and they run additional help sessions during the day. Actually, it's in the office right next to mine, and in the evenings, they're in a room over by the dorms. So if a student is having trouble in one of their courses their freshman year, it's very easy to get help. But I think it goes back to what Mike said about research opportunities. The most important thing is making the connection with the professor, coming to them, asking them for help. That most of the students that come here to CASE are good students and they haven't had to ask for help. If you have questions, come see us. I don't know of anybody at the university, any faculty member, that doesn't want their students to come and get help. They want to be there, they want to try to help you. It's your responsibility to go see them.
There's an organization on campus, ESS, Educational Service for Students, that helps, except for the math department, I guess, that organizes the supplementary instructors, also provides tutors. So you're entitled to a tutor for any of the introductory courses. And again, don't be shy about knocking on the instructor's door and asking for help. Too few students do that, in my opinion.
Okay, we have a question for Professor Butler. Alexandra would have loved to have majored in math, but wanting to become a doctor has chosen to go to one of the sciences, but is still interested in a math minor. She has AP credit for calculus. What other courses would you recommend for the math minor?
Well, for the math minor, it requires 17 hours. No more than 8 can count towards the major. If you're interested in medicine, then you might want to take some upper-level calculus classes, linear algebra. I would maybe recommend taking a probability course so that you understand a little bit about those sort of things.
The other thing, I want to jump in on top of that one. If you're interested in going to medical school, there is no one major that is better than another. The medical school requirement is that you have a 4-year degree. If you love mathematics, you should major in mathematics and still apply for medical school. You still have to satisfy the pre-med requirements, which include 2 years of chemistry with lab, including organic, a year of physics with lab, and a year of biology with lab. But aside from that, you can major in anything you want if you want to go to medical school. So pick the major that you love. That's the best advice I can give you.
Thank you. We have another question that came in, and I think it's for Professor Chottiner. If I have AP credit for Physics B and Physics C, and I'm going to a pre-med track, what 2 physics courses with labs would you recommend?
Well, what you have to tell us is your intended major, because that will determine a lot of things, and whether it's a BA or a BS. The Physics B credit would get you credit for Physics 115, the algebra-based course, and that would be fine for several BA degrees, including our own in the physics department, by the way, but would not be fine for most BS degrees, which you might also be pursuing. Now, if you have credit for AP Physics C mechanics, that's equivalent to our Physics 121, a calculus-based course, and in that case, you could just move, if you just need the physics because of the degree you want to pursue, you would just probably move directly onto Physics 122 if you need a BS physics credit.
Great. We only have about 4 minutes left, so I don't know if there are any final comments that our hosts would like to make before we wrap up for the evening.
I'd like to go with what Mike said about, choosing your major for going to med school. Choosing just a major in general, or choosing what you want to study. I find that you want to choose something that you love, because if you love to do it, you're going to spend more time at it, you're going to work harder at it, and then you end up to be better at it. And if you make your decision that way, whether anybody else thinks it's a good idea, that's not important. It's whether or not you love it, and if you do that, then I think you'll be successful.
And it may take you some time to determine what major you love. I think the statistics are that an average student at other universities changes majors perhaps 5 times. Now that's less common here, where so many students come in with a very good idea of what they'd like to do. But what you should probably focus on your first year or 2 is finding out what you really love to do, whether it be physics, mathematics, or dance, or theater. This is actually an excellent place to do that and to try to combine some of those interests. It's actually very common here.
I guess my closing comments, to echo some things we said earlier, is that when you get here, and first of all, congratulations on being accepted at Case Western Reserve. We look forward to seeing you. Things will be different than they were in high school. For some of you, it will be easy, a small minority, I believe. For many of you, it's going to be a change that for the first time, you're not the top student in the class. You're now in there with everybody else, and that can be hard. I strongly encourage you, and we've all said it tonight, ask for help. Knock on our door. Those of us who teach in the first year program, Chris has been teaching in the introductory math for quite a while. I teach the introductory chemistry. Gary's going to be teaching in the introductory physics. We do it because we choose to. We want to help you, so knock on our door, ask us for help. We're all here. As you saw, Chris's email is easy, chris@kstudy.edu, and that's what you want to do. Email us, call us, whatever it takes.
Thank you, Professor Butler, Chottiner, and Kenney.